Hi everyone, this is Andi. So this is the first day of Andi's online fantasy convention. If you followed me on Facebook or are one of my newsletter subscribers, you might be aware that in light of the coronavirus outbreak and the quarantine and businesses and schools being closed, conventions being closed, events being closed or canceled, I am bringing the convention to you in a way to kind of give back and give something for you guys to do while you are being quarantined inside your homes and not being able to go anywhere. So I am posting readings every day or videos rather, every day from today, which is March 17th, through Sunday, March 29th. Each day I will post one video. Some are readings from my books, some are panel talks where I will discuss topics from panels that I was supposed to be on at the Cleveland Concoction, which was canceled. So today I am reading from Reclamation, which is my the second novella in my Elvania series. Redemption is book, or I should say novella one, not book one, novella one. They're both available online. They're both also available on my website store, which brings me to another part of my online fantasy convention. If you've ever been to a convention or a Comic-Con, and you're a book nerd like me, then probably one of the biggest things and one of the best things that you enjoy is getting a bunch of books, meeting authors, getting a bunch of books that you would not have been able to find or would not have found elsewhere. And usually when I go to cons, if you've ever seen me at a convention, I sell my books at cheaper prices because there's not as many overheads as there are selling it online or through a retailer. Excuse me. Sorry. So, for these 2 weeks, today, the 17th through the 29th, if you go to my website at andyo'connor.net, and the link will be below, so check it out. All of my books will be available for my con prices. So either big savings individually, or if you get the Valinor series, a full Valinor series, or the full Dragonoth series, it's even an even bigger discount. I can't talk today. So you can get 3 hardbacks of my Valinor series for $60 and free shipping to the US, and you can get 3 trade paperbacks of my Dragonoth series for $35. So it's as if you're at the con, sharing a table with me, coming up, talking to me, getting my books, having me sign them, except we're doing it virtually instead of face-to-face. So check it out at the end. And also, if you go to my website, on my events page, which I will also post down there, is a full schedule of the whole 2 weeks. And what video I will post every day. Usually I will try to get them up before 3 or by 3 o'clock p.m. Eastern time, but that might not always happen. But definitely each day there will be a video posted. Check it out. The full schedule is on my website on the events page. Tomorrow, the 18th, March 18th, I'm going to do a panel talk about titled Building a Better Bad Guy. So I'm going to talk about what makes for an effective and truly memorable antagonist. And if you've read any of my books or stories, you know that my antagonists tend to stick out in your mind. They're not just good or bad because I said so. You learn about why they are the way they are, and it makes them to be quite memorable, actually, and very complicated and complex characters. So tomorrow, check in, excuse me, for Building a Better Bad Guy, and I will post a video here on YouTube tomorrow. So subscribe to my channel so you can get all of the notifications for when I post all my videos for my online fantasy con. But today is the reading from Reclamation. So I am going to, this is my latest release. It was just released in October, if I remember right. The months are just going by and I can't keep track of things. But I'm going to read from chapter 3. It's kind of a darker part of the, but well, I should say this whole series is rather dark. There are some lighter, more inspirational moments that happen, but this is a very dark part of the novella, of the story. It follows Gonmare, who is actually captured, and so this is him while he is imprisoned in Polar's dungeons. So here we go. With consciousness slowly returning, Gonmare groaned. He clutched his stomach and rolled to his side, barely registering the iron manacles on his wrists. He had no idea where he was or how long he'd been unconscious, and he didn't care to find out. All that registered in his mind was pain. Pain of the magnitude he hadn't experienced since his breaking sessions at the hand of Master Zerog. Pain so intense he wanted nothing more than to die so he could be free. But a familiar crippling fear told him he would never be free. This destructive pain would cling to him in death, just as it did in life. No one would help him. No one could. Blocked away from all aid, no one would be able to deliver him peace. This endless suffering was now his life, and it would transcend all levels of eternity. Cautiously opening his eyes, Gonmare squinted through the darkness, but he couldn't discern any features of his surroundings. A blackness darker than even the most sinister of nights enveloped him. Letting go of his stomach, he reached out his hands, but they didn't get far. The clanking of metal rang throughout the enclosure. The small chains attached the manacles on his wrists to a metal belt locked around his waist. Shocked he hadn't noticed it before, Gonmare ran his fingers over the cold band, letting his hands explore as far as they could. If the belt contained a physical lock, he couldn't find it. Magic held it solidly around his body, and only magic would release him. Magic. Only at the thought of the word did he become aware of the terrifying emptiness that consumed him. He cautiously reached out his power, attempting to summon it to his fingertips, but it didn't respond. The connection to his magic was gone, replaced by a void that tore at his heart. Tears sprung to the corners of his eyes. No act could be more atrocious and cause him more pain than taking away the link to his power. Not even the cruelest Maedrock would consider performing such a despicable act. Ah, but I am not a Maedrock. Not anymore. Now, I'm something much better. Gonmare froze at the sound of the high-pitched, squirrely voice. Until recently, he'd believed his voice's owner to be long dead, and had never expected to hear it again in his lifetime. Polar. The name barely escaped Gonmare's throat. So heavily laden with fear, he hardly recognized his own voice. An amused chuckle filled the air. After all these years, you remember me, and you're still so fearful. How touching. The air around Gonmare shifted. He stiffened, preparing for a blow that didn't come. Oh, come now. There's no need for such mistrust. After all, we were brothers. Once. Polar's voice emanated from behind Gonmare, and he craned his neck to better pinpoint the exiled Maedrock's location. Polar's movement across the room had caused the shifting of the air, but that innocent reason didn't ease Gonmare's anxiety. Not even the softest rustling sound had reached Gonmare's ears. Polar could have used magic to mask the sound of his footsteps, but without access to his own power, he couldn't tell for certain. Nevertheless, the tactic seemed like a waste of energy. In the comprehensive list of atrocities Polar could perform that would confuse and frighten him, especially now that Gonmare had no connection to his power, hiding the sounds of footsteps seemed rather trivial. The ratio of effort to level of fear produced didn't make sense. But then, not many of Polar's actions had ever made sense. Not to anyone other than Polar. Gonmare and his fellow Maedrock had spent years trying to decipher Polar's thoughts, and none of them had succeeded. Now wouldn't be any different. Polar's motivations and reasonings would remain clear, only to Polar. Not wanting to give his captor the satisfaction of hearing any of his frustrations, Gonmare suppressed the sigh itching the back of his throat. He didn't know much about what made Polar tick, but he had enough common sense to refrain from showing any weaknesses. Without magic or any other means of defending himself, denying Polar any satisfaction was his only weapon. Memories of how Polar fed off of the young boy's pain during their breaking sessions were still fresh in Gonmare's mind. The crazed look of pleasure cemented on Polar's face would stay with Gonmare for the rest of his days. He'd already made the grave mistake of allowing his fear to show when he spoke Polar's name, and he refused to make the same mistake again. It wasn't a matter of survival. Hope of survival never entered his mind. It was a matter of principle. Unlike all the boys who had died during Polar's sessions, Gonmare forbade himself from becoming the fodder for Polar's sick and twisted pleasure. He would most likely die during his time in this hell, but he would take with him the satisfaction of robbing Polar of the cruel delight he sought. Renewed vigor swept through Gonmare's body at his last thought. It wasn't much of a victory, but it was a victory nonetheless. He would go to his grave with the peace of knowing he'd done all he could. For in the war that would soon rage against Polar, he feared the Maedrock would only be met with death. Polar sniffed the air. Your scent has changed, old friend. Friend, Gonmare sneered, certain that although he couldn't see anything in the blackness, Polar could undoubtedly see him. You're no friend of mine. Polar's hot breath touched the back of Gonmare's neck, and his inhalations became deeper and more drawn as he continued down Gonmare's spine. Like a bat only venturing out of his cave under the cover of night, the exiled Maedrock seemed to be in his element amid the darkness. Your fear, Polar said. A slight hint of annoyance tainted his voice. It's gone. Moving to face Gonmare, Polar inhaled deeply, one last time before abruptly letting his breath escape. Do I detect an air of determination? Gonmare kept his resolve, undeterred by Polar's mixture of amusement and irritation. Despite the pain ravaging Gonmare's body, this wasn't a physical battle. It was a battle of minds, and he refused to let Polar win. Callous fingers grabbed his cheeks, and sharpened fingernails dug into his skin before his head was lifted off of the floor. Venomous green eyes emerged from the cocoon of blackness, illuminated from behind by a soft, pearly light. Why are you wasting your time, friend? You are captured, bound, beaten, and deprived of your magic. You have no way of defending yourself, no hope of escape, no hope of rescue. There is nothing left for you in this life, only endless amounts of pain and anguish. Polar's eyes disappeared, and Gonmare's surroundings once again plummeted to total darkness. The bony fingers released his cheeks, and his head crashed upon the hard ground. You are mine now, Gonmare, mine to do with as I please. Polar's voice emanated from every nook of the chamber, leaving Gonmare completely disoriented. He didn't know where to direct his attention, and had no idea where to brace for an attack. Gonmare hadn't been conscious for long, but in that short time, he'd become increasingly impressed by Polar's tactics. The exiled Maedrock had become quite skilled in intimidation techniques over the years, and Gonmare's determination began to slip away, cowering in the dark recesses of his mind. The circumstances surrounding his captivity were far from ordinary. His resistance would be much more difficult than he'd originally anticipated. Already, after only 2 of Polar's tricks, Gonmare had begun to unravel. He wouldn't last. Polar had effortlessly made him a pawn in the game of manipulation, and he'd obediently fallen into his role. He had no chance of survival, no chance of obtaining an upper hand, no chance of escape, no chance of rescue. Gonmare sucked in his breath, the last thought giving him pause. Rescue. Jolriel and the rest of the Maedrock wouldn't leave him here to die without attempting a rescue. They might not yet know his location, but they would do everything in their power to find him and free him from this hell. Details of his capture remained hidden from his memory. He had no idea of how long he'd come to be Polar's captor or how long he'd been here, swathed in the blissful ignorance of unconsciousness. Regardless of the answers to those questions, Jolriel and the others had surely noticed his absence and were furiously working on a plan to bring him back home. There was always hope of rescue. He couldn't give up. He couldn't allow Polar's seeds of mistrust and despair to take root. He needed to cling on to the friendship he shared with his brothers in the Order and let that be the light that would guide him through the darkness. Keeping his expression blank, Gonmare stared into the void, careful to not react to Polar's claim. There wasn't much in the way of physical torture that Polar could do to him which would be worse than what he'd experienced during his breaking sessions at the college. Emotionally, he couldn't imagine anything more devastating than losing his magic. Whatever Polar threw at him, he would face it with dignity and courage. A sword had appeared in the darkness. Its blade pulsated with blue flames. Gonmare kept his focus past the weapon, concentrating on the void beyond. You don't seem worried, my friend. The sword lurched toward Gonmare and stopped inches before his face. He didn't flinch. He didn't change his focus. Keeping the images of Juriel, Doran, and Len, and countless others in the forefront of his mind, Gonmare focused on remaining totally unaffected by Polar's attempts at intimidation. Polar's voice lowered to a sinister whisper, carrying with it a foreboding that Gonmare had never before witnessed. Perhaps you would be better able to react if you fully understood the purpose of this blade, for it's not meant to cut through flesh and bone. It's a blade I created especially for you, one designed to attack your mind. The tip of the sword lashed out at Gonmare. Before he could react, the blue flames extended toward his head, sending a cold, burning sensation through his body when they penetrated his skull. Tears welled in his eyes. An icy pain coursed through his veins, bringing with it a faint sense of recognition. Though the details continued to elude him, his gut told him that he'd encountered the blue flames before. Memories from all stages of his life flashed before his eyes, some still fresh, and some that he'd all but forgotten. The visions swirled together, creating a large whirlpool of pain, confusion, and regret. The maelstrom sucked Gonmare into its depths, drowning him in the sludges of his memories. He desperately tried to cling on to the light of his determination, but the vortex's wrath was too strong. Gonmare plummeted into darkness, his frantic scream dying with his consciousness. So that is the first scene in Chapter 3 from Reclamation. It is 99 cents on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Kobo. You can also get the paperback version, signed copy, on my website for $5. The link is down below. Check back, as I said, tomorrow for, what is it? I keep needing to look at my calendar. A Better Bad Guy, where I'm going to talk about what makes antagonists truly memorable and make them stand out from other characters or other antagonists that you are often portrayed in fantasy. Also, a note, on the 29th, which is a Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern, I'm going to do a live Facebook Q&A for all of you guys, kind of round out the week, so you'll be able to watch all of the panel talks, all of my readings. And then if you have any questions, email me at Andi@andyo'connor.net. Email will also be below. Or comment below with any questions. You can send them to a Facebook message. You can comment through Facebook during the live session, and I will do my best to answer all of your questions on Sunday, the 29th at 3 p.m. Eastern on Facebook Live. So thanks for joining me for the first day of Andi's Fantasy Online Convention. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you enjoyed the reading, and I hope you enjoy what's left to come. Please put your thoughts, put your comments below. Let me know what you thought. Even if it's just to let me know what you're doing during your quarantine, or what you're looking forward to as far as things that are happening online. There's a lot of things happening that I know kind of broke last night, but the Met's streaming operas. There are tons of ballet companies and studios giving online classes. Paul Van Dyke, which we did watch, it was great. My honeybee and I, on Sunday, he gave a 4-hour, it was incredible, 4-hour live stream from Germany because his performance was canceled. So anything like that you're looking forward to during this time, please share below. Let other people know about it. Let's help each other. See you tomorrow, guys.